Okay, I gotta address something, and pretty serious about this because there's gotta be a narrative that's gotta be corrected here. There's gotta be some correction here. This man you see here on the screen, his name is Greg Foreman, who is the owner and content creator of the YouTube page Black Conservative Perspective. Now he just did a video recently regarding the fact that the mayor of New York is giving $53 million to these illegal immigrants, which I understand the gripe and grievance and why a lot of people would be against it. But I want to address some of the things that he said in regards to black people, or not even just black people, but black people in particular in one instance, and I'll get to that in a minute. But basically, his position on food stamps and reparations. The reason why I felt the need to address this is because, unfortunately, with a lot of black conservatives, even though, again, there's a lot of things I can agree with, but there's some things I vehemently disagree with. And this is one of those things. His take on food stamps and reparations. And I'm going to get to that in a minute as to why. All right. First of all, I don't agree with the suggestion that people should not get food stamps, but what they should get is whatever food the government gives them and whatever the scraps they are. That is a Emil Durkheim, Robert Mertonist mentality. Look it up. Look it up who they are. And the idea of saying here, because these people are on SNAP benefits or food stamps, whichever you want to have it, they shouldn't have a choice of their food. I mean, we're still basically coming out of our pockets for them as far as the tax revenue that goes towards these social services. So this is the reason why I want to say that I think that that's an absurd opinion to have. First of all, and this is the main reason why I think this is a nonsense position, which is that, first of all, these people have children that may need certain food prepared a certain way for medical reasons, okay, on top of who the mother is or whoever's in that house. Now, mind you, people consider and say, well, the mother should have those kids. Yeah, but the kids didn't ask to be born. So why should the kids be forced to suffer because of the bad decisions of the mother or her parents in a general sense? So, no, I don't agree with that. I think that maybe that you can make the case that, yeah, some people buy steaks and lobsters and stuff like that. People want to say, well, you shouldn't get the good stuff as I get because, I'm not on SNAP. I don't think it's about that. I think we need to get away from that aspect of it because that's not really the point. The point is to basically keep people from being short on food, particularly if they have children. All right? So I don't think that we put it this way. If the parents were behaving responsibly, which I'm sure there's more than not, I don't think the responsible ones should have to suffer. Their children shouldn't have to suffer. There should be maybe a certain level of scrutiny about the kids, health as far as the nutrition that they're getting and whether or not the parents are actually preparing the food. I would say that I'd be in favor of something maybe along those lines. But the idea of saying, no, you don't get the choice to have good food, you get whatever scrapes that we throw off the table because, you're on SNAP or you're on food stamps. Now, I'm sorry, I can't go along with that. And the fact of the matter is, I don't think people should be punished because they're on food stamps. And, the thing is, this program is supposed to be something that we fund. Now, some people are against it, some people are for it. This is one thing that I say that primarily because of the situation with the children, we need to give these people the ability to pick their own food. If they're behaving irresponsibly with their food stamps, then we can make that's a different argument. But no, I think that they should be able to have a choice of the food based on because people have their own physical tolerances or intolerances, and I think that we should allow them to address that by giving them the choice of food in the SNAP benefits. Give them a certain amount of money in SNAP, like we've been doing, or a certain amount of vouchers, whatever you want to call it, and let them go from there. If there's a case to be made about how irresponsible some of these parents behaving with the SNAP, then that's a different argument. So that's one thing that, I don't agree with. All right, and I don't think that it's a good position to have, although he's entitled to it. But particularly what I have an issue with is his position on reparations. And the reason I have a position, I have a problem with it is because, first of all, he made the case that reparations are a quote unquote handout. Okay? First of all, I'm tired of that narrative, number one, because here's the funny part. Is it a handout when these other groups of people in this country get it? And if they do, Mr. Foreman, of the black conservative perspective, could you please point them out since you are so gratuitous as to be able to point out when black people are abusing, social services, things like that, or the revenue that we get in this country and taking advantage of. Could you point it out? And you know what? I'll help you with that. Okay. That's the one thing that I have a problem with, because reparations are not a handout. They are a form of recompense, a form of making people whole. That's what they are. See, the fun part is that term is only used primarily with black people. The fact of the matter is, reparations has been given out in this country all the time, and it still is. And I'll explain to you why. And then him saying, forget about reparations. Okay, so in other words, black folks should just forget about getting reparations because, nobody should get a handout. Meantime, there's people still, by your definition, are getting handouts right now. Let's go into it. All right? Native Americans have been getting reparations, a form of reparations, whether it's called through a treaty. That's just semantics as far as it goes. The function of it works the same way as anything that you would call reparations. It would just basically be a play on words. They've been getting benefits since the late 1800s, okay, from the government for being, quote unquote, federally recognized. Just as of recently that I can recall, this little shell Indian tribe in Montana that got $25 million and some acres of land for being federally recognized, right? Now, mind you, they applied for this and they petitioned for it for a long time and they didn't get it right away, but guess what they do? And there's billions of dollars every year going to Native American tribes. Every year, all right? So are we going to say those are not reparations? All right? But now, when Mr. Foreman bring that up, I'm sure he won't. Secondly, Israel. Say whatever you want to say about how they feel about Israel as a country, whether it's a legitimate nation or not. We're not even going to go into that, but let's just go into one reality. Israel is a country that was basically given to Jewish people as their own nation. All right? And with the support of the Balfour Agreement that was drafted by the UK in 1948, okay, and to the point now where the Palestinians have pretty much been driven out of their own country. That's just the reality. And guess what? We fund that. We've been funding that for years. For decades, we've been supporting this, okay? We give Israel $4 billion per year in funding, okay? Which is either the same, actually, I'd make the case it's probably more than what we get in this country as far as welfare or food stamp benefits, things like that. I'm going to tell you right now, because the last quoted number I heard was, I think, from the Daily Beast, and this was a while ago. I think it was like $3 billion a year. Now you're figuring you got a population of, population in the country of over 350 million plus people, right? And you're only getting a fraction of the benefits on that big population. Now, that population is probably about anywhere from, 50 to 60 million people that are actually probably eligible for those benefits, but the fact still remains. We have a country, small or as same size as the state of New Jersey, that is getting more in benefits than the people where the country that makes the taxes that go out to these people, right? As of recently, Mr. Biden went as far as to push Congress to give Israel $14 billion to fund this egregious act that's going on over there, in my opinion. Okay, that's coming out of that. We have a Congress that's all in together now with it. We have a new Speaker of the House that went as far as not to say that he was going to do something right away to help Americans suffering and hunger and the problems here. The first thing he said was, we're going to go to help our friends in Israel, a foreign country. That was first on his priority list, stated by him, right? This is what we got going on. And there's other groups in this country that receive forms of benefits. Hell, even former slave masters. Well, could you maybe bring some of these things up, black conservative perspective, Mr. Foreman? You think maybe those things should be addressed? But, I just think the sweeping, no one should get benefits, no one should get reparations, I think is a joke, because that's not really what goes on in this country. I think the fact is, people are getting forms of reparations right now. And their problems did not occur in this country. We have groups in this country that have been receiving benefits. Well, one in particular, I'm not going to bring it up because that's another debate, but the fact is their struggles did not happen in the United States, and yet they still get compensation from other agencies in this country. Okay? We're talking about a group of people, foundational black Americans who helped build this country. Okay? I mean, this is the reality. Stock trade in this country came from the slave trade. That's where the original idea, that's where the stock trade came from, was the transatlantic slave trade in this country. All right? Black men have fought in every war in this country's history. All right? People can make the case, whatever they want to say, well, this, that, and the third about whether or not they count and all this stuff. Listen, you can't, no one goes to Jewish people and say, guess what? You were never in a concentration camp. You never you never had to go to a gas chamber, right? When they say that, listen, we'll never forget, or that we should get, recognized for the struggles we went through. You wouldn't say that to a Jewish person, right, Mr. Foreman? You wouldn't say that. And you wouldn't say to a Native American person that you shouldn't get these reparations for having your land taken from you because you didn't experience that. You didn't experience the genocide. You weren't there at the Sand Creek Massacre when over 10,000 Native Americans were slaughtered with the support and the leadership of a Christian reverend, okay, that led the attack on these people. But you won't hear Mr. Greg here make that case. But it's so easy to go after black folks and say, well, you shouldn't be asking for nothing because nobody should be getting it. Well, guess what? Which is it? If that's the case, and let's just go with your perspective on this, Mr. Foreman. When are we going to stop giving benefits to other people? And if that's not the case, then what do we do? Say we're going to stop at black folks? No, we'll give everybody else benefits but foundational black Americans or descendants of American slaves, whichever we choose to be called. I mean, really, what's the reality here? What position should we take here? Is that, oh, well, we've given all these other people benefits, we're still giving benefits, but we're going to stop at black folks. What message does that say, Mr. Foreman? I mean, I understand that you have a certain audience there that probably would disagree with you saying that, and that's probably your concern. That's why you would tiptoe around that or not even bring it up at all. But it's real easy for you to, lash out at black folks because you're black too. So I guess you feel like you're at liberty to do that. But I got news for you: you're at liberty to do it, but you're also at liberty to be criticized and for us to respond. Okay? Because reparations are not a handout. They're a recompense. They're a compensation. We can talk about slavery in other places and all this stuff, but the reality of it is we were not even humans in this country. We were considered chattel, property, right? But yet we were still counted when it came down to the white man wanting to use that as far as the population count in order to get representation in Congress, right? So they were having it both ways. Now, you won't address that either, will you? Because we can talk about the, constitutional law here and the history of that if you like to, in regards to, the 13th, 14th Amendment. And as far as the Dred Scott, we can go into that too, but you know what? I'll say that for another day. I just have a problem I don't have a problem with conservatives but the thing is, let's just be real, okay? Let's just be honest, all right? There are some injustices in this country that people have not been given recompense for. And please don't tell me affirmative action, because affirmative action has benefited white women more than the other group. Don't take my word for it. Go look it up. Everybody loves to put that on black folks. Let me tell you something. I've been black for over 50 years of my life, and I got news for you. I've only received one job because of affirmative action. That's my suspicion, and that was working at a factory that paid crap and ultimately only hired somebody black just so they could get their 501c money. The job was terrible, and it didn't give you any position to where you were going to elevate yourself to an executive position. It wasn't like that. And most affirmative action jobs don't do that. They just give you a position. So please don't put that on us, number one. In case you have a comeback you want to make, let me just stop you right there in case you do. So yeah, that's the whole thing, is that what are we going to do? We're going to say, look, if we're going to break it down to it, either everyone gets their recompense, their reparations, whatever you want to call it, or nobody should be getting them, right? But this idea that nobody should be getting them, so if everybody else is getting, we won't address that. But when black people say, no, you shouldn't get reparations, you're not going to get reparations. So I got news for you. Here's the reality. Whether or not most of us will be alive that day potentially comes, or in fact, if it does or not, we are going to leverage that, sir. Because the fact of the matter is, we are owed that. Say what you want, because guess what? That we are the posterity of our forefathers and mothers, okay? Which means that, guess what? Their blood and their DNA still runs through our body. And guess what? Every other group gets that same respect, but for some reason, it seems to be a problem when it comes to black people, foundational black Americans. Well, we don't accept that. And you can have whatever opinion you want. Your audience can have whatever opinion they want. But let's just get real, okay? Either you give us reparations or stop giving everybody else. Or give us all. Either all or no one. We can't play this game of, well, no one should get them, but we'll still keep getting them these other people. We can give Ukraine almost $2 billion a year. We can give, you know, Israel every benefit. We have a foreign lobby that's basically lobbying our government. We got a government here that's sitting there saying that they're going to pass a resolution to say that anti-Zionism, anti-Zionism, anti-Semitism is the same. They're going to conflate them things, and there's nothing more intellectually dishonest than that. That shows you how much power that the AIPAC lobby has in our government. Now, you won't ever go off about that because you're afraid that you'll be called anti-Semitic and that you'll reap some type of consequences. Let's be real. You're not too crazy, and a lot of people aren't when it comes to that. But let's just be honest. I'm not attacking anybody, but let's just be real. But anyway, I just wanted to address that because I'm really tired of it being such a free-for-all to criticize black people. But guess what? Let me be one of those black Americans, foundational black Americans, to respond. I'm out.